In this presentation, we will review our practice problem related to private colleges and the accounting for them within QuickBooks Pro, QuickBooks Desktop. Here we are in our private college QuickBooks file. We currently have the open windows open. You can open the open windows by going to the view dropdown and selecting the open windows list. Now we have restored a file for our practice problem that will give us our beginning balance numbers. If you don't have the restoration or are having problems to restore it, you can push forward with a new QuickBooks file. However, it would be best to restore the file to have those beginning balances as we push forward with the problem. First, let's take a look at our Excel worksheet, which we will be using as a guide. We're going to be looking at things in Excel because it's going to be more transparent. Then we'll convert that information into the QuickBooks problem. Within the Excel sheet, we're going to be talking about the private college. We've got the information that we will be recording on the left-hand side. We'll be journalizing that information in the general journal. Then we'll be posting that to our trial balance worksheet to see what the adjustments will be. And that will be in order where we have the green in our assets and then the liabilities in orange. What would be equity sections in a for-profit organization here being the net assets in light blue. What would be the income statement in a for-profit organization, the temporary accounts in the dark blue. The major things that will differ here are going to be the names of the accounts that are going to be different from a for-profit type of organization and other types of not-for-profit organizations, and also the fact that we have kind of a two-dimensional screen here where we're going to be making a few more dimensions or widening the screens, having more columns at least, in the QuickBooks file. That means down here, for example, in the equity section and below, we have the restricted items and the unrestricted items, or the without restrictions and with restrictions. And we do the same thing with the accounts down here. In QuickBooks, we can basically separate that out, and that's what we're going to practice doing with QuickBooks with the use of class tracking so that we can construct something that will look like this, the statement of activities, which will give us those two columns that we're going to be looking for. If we go back into our QuickBooks file, then this is going to be our QuickBooks file. The major things that have been set up already are the lists. So if we go to the lists dropdown and the chart of accounts, we have set up our chart of accounts. So this is going to be our chart of accounts. It's going to be in order by the type, assets, liabilities, equity, or the net assets, which are going to be called equity. A type accounts here, even though the name of the account itself will be net assets, and then income and expense type of accounts. These are going to be the starting point. We've entered the beginning balances, as we can see here on the balance sheet side of things. One of the best ways to go and look at that is going to be with the trial balance. If we go to the reports drop down, we go to the accounting and taxes and take a look at that trial balance, changing the dates up top from 01/01/20 to 12/31/20. There's going to be our trial balance. These are going to be the balance sheet accounts. This is going to be our starting point. No data has been entered for 2020. It's all been entered for the prior time period. You'll note down here that we have the temporary restricted net assets and then the unrestricted net assets. We're going to have to track that temporary restrictions. We're going to be using this and tracking this information with the use of classes and with the use of jobs. Classes and jobs. So to turn on the classes, remember that you got to go to the edit drop-down preferences. It's already been turned on here, but just for a reminder, preferences, and then you go to the accounting up top and the company preferences. And actually, it's not on. We're going to have to turn on the class tracking. So we'll turn on the class tracking here and then say OK. So let's do that one more time. We're going to go to the edit tab. Preferences down below, the edit drop down preferences, accounting tab on the left. Then we have the company preferences, and then we want to use the class tracking feature. Class tracking feature, we'll say OK. We also have a few jobs that have been set up, or a few customers that have been set up. We can see those in the customer center up top, and then go to the customer drop down and then customer center. And then within the customer center, we would put one under the job, because these are going to be the items that will be restricted. So therefore, if we run a report by job, we'll see those restricted items. Let's check that out. We go to the reports up top. If we go to the company and financial, we want to run a profit and loss by job. Profit and loss by job. Changing the dates up top. I'm going to change it all the way from 2019 to 12/31 20. So all the way 2019 to 2020, the 2-year time period, will be working here in 2020, because if you do so, then all the open jobs will be in place, because that's the full time frame. So these jobs, we're going to say this job is open, and note that it adds up to the 234,209. That number ties out if we go back to the trial balance, 234,209. We have the 234,209 in the restricted items. So the jobs are going to help us basically to track that restricted item information.